From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
Kamala, you're fired!
I say, bring it on.
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America. Hello and welcome to the program. There are now less than a handful of days left in the race for the White House, and both candidates are leaving no stone unturned in their frantic race to the finish. We'll take you through it all in a moment, but first, a look at the headlines. Donald Trump's net worth doubles to almost $8 billion as his shares of his company Trump Media rise by 9% in October. Meanwhile, Vice President Kamala Harris reports a net worth of $8 million, which has increased by $1 million since 2021. Republican Vice Presidential nominee J.D. Vance sits for a 3-hour-long podcast with Joe Rogan. The two discuss a wide range of topics, including LGBTQ rights, climate change, and assassination attempts on Donald Trump. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu does an about-face and says he is now willing to accept a ceasefire with Hezbollah if Israel is not restricted in responding to threats emerging from Lebanon. In the South African nation of Botswana, the ruling party loses power for the first time in nearly 6 decades. This is as the opposition coalition secures a clear majority in the historic election. And Venezuela hosts the Colombian government and the left-wing ELN guerrilla group for peace talks in Caracas. ELN is Colombia's largest armed rebel group, which has been fighting the government since 1964. We begin with the race for the White House, where Vice President Kamala Harris and her running mate Tim Walz celebrated the Hindu festival of Diwali on Thursday night. Both Democrats met members of the Hindu community as they extended greetings for the Festival of Lights. Kamala Harris hosted a gathering at her official vice presidential residence, a tradition she has followed every year since taking office in 2021. Meanwhile, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz met members of the South Asian community in the crucial swing state of Pennsylvania.
Thank you for the blessing to start us out. Happy Diwali to everyone. It's a privilege for me to be with you on this special day, a privilege to stand amongst you, and it does feel appropriate. I know there's a lot of anxiety out there and everything, but you can feel the sense of community here. You can feel the sense of love. You can feel the sense of that there is something bigger than all of us.
Addressing entrepreneurs, artists, educators, and working class Indian Americans, Tim Walz emphasized the group's vital role in shaping America.
The Indian and South Asian community is so much a fabric of our state and who we are in all aspects of civic, political, educational, the arts, across all spectrums, entrepreneurship and business. The community, it makes our states what they are. And to see the political voice rise itself up, to be able to see us elect folks who look like the community, and we get a more perfect union that way. I do want to thank these legislators and Governor Shapiro for recognizing and making Diwali officially a holiday. It matters. It matters.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump also offered well wishes to the Hindu community. He used the festive day to launch scathing attacks on President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. The presidential nominee took to social media platform X, where he condemned violence against Hindu and Christian minorities in the South Asian country of Bangladesh.
I strongly condemn the barbaric violence against Hindus, Christians, and other minorities who are getting attacked and looted by mobs in Bangladesh, which remains in a total state of chaos. It would have never happened on my watch. Kamala and Joe have ignored Hindus across the world and in America. They have been a disaster from Israel to Ukraine to our own southern border. But we will make America strong again and bring back peace through strength.
Donald Trump also praised Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi as he vowed to protect Hindu Americans from the so-called anti-religious radical left.
We will also protect Hindu Americans against the anti-religion agenda of the radical left. We will fight for your freedom. Under my administration, we will also strengthen our great partnership with India and my good friend, Prime Minister Modi.
Now, according to a 2021 census, there are over 3.5 million Hindus living in the United States. They make up a large percentage of the 5.2 million strong Indian American community, which has historically favored Democrats over Republicans. In 2020, over 75% of Indian Americans voted for President Biden over Donald Trump. This year, the stakes couldn't be higher as Donald Trump tries to woo the Indian American community into the MAGA camp in the final days of the race. And staying with the race for the White House, former President Donald Trump has once again vowed to protect women, whether they like it or not. Speaking at a rally in Wisconsin on Wednesday, the ex-president even said his advisors called the rhetoric, quote, inappropriate, but in typical Trump fashion, that didn't stop the former reality television star from speaking his mind.
And my people told me about 4 weeks ago, I was saying, no, I want to protect the people. I want to protect the women of our country. I want to protect the women. Sir, please don't say that. Why? They said, we think it's very inappropriate for you to say. I said, why? I'm president. I want to protect the women of our country. They said. They said, sir, I just think it's inappropriate for you to say. I pay these guys a lot of money. Can you believe it? I said, well, I'm going to do it whether the women like it or not. I'm going to protect them. I'm going to protect them from migrants coming in.
Donald Trump's latest remarks invokes memories of his previous claim that women won't need to think about abortion once he's reelected to the White House. However, the Republican presidential nominee has been buried under an avalanche of criticism given his troubled history of sexual misconduct by dozens of women over the years. During his first term, the former president also appointed 3 judges to the Supreme Court who helped overturn Roe v. Wade, the 50-year landmark ruling that made abortion the law of the land. This seismic ruling has dogged the Republican Party ever since the 6-3 decision came down. Meanwhile, at a campaign event in Arizona on Thursday, Vice President Kamala Harris slammed Donald Trump for his remarks, saying the Republican does not respect the freedom and intelligence of women.
And Donald Trump's not done. Did everyone hear what he just said yesterday? That he will do what he wants, quote, and here's where I'm going to quote, whether the women like it or not. Vote, because this is the thing. He does not believe women should have the agency and authority to make decisions about their own bodies. This is the same man who said women should be punished for their choices. He simply does not respect the freedom of women or the intelligence of women to know what's in their own best interest and make decisions accordingly. But we trust women. We trust women.
Throughout this campaign, Donald Trump has struggled to connect with women voters mostly because of his controversial stances on reproductive rights. Almost every poll this election season, including the latest YouGov poll, has shown that Americans prefer Kamala Harris over Donald Trump on issues such as abortion, LGBTQ rights, and health care. Now, with just 3 days left in this historic election, Donald Trump appears to be adding an already massive gender gap with his counterproductive rhetoric. And what would a presidential race be without its surreal gimmicks? The former president sat in a MAGA-themed garbage truck in Wisconsin to draw attention to President Joe Biden's garbage comment about his supporters. Wearing a safety vest, Donald Trump told his supporters that they are the heart and soul of America.
Thank you very much, everybody. And I have to begin by saying 250 million Americans are not garbage. This week, Kamala has been comparing her political opponents to the most evil mass murderers in history. And now, speaking on a call for her campaign last night, crooked Joe Biden finally said what he and Kamala really think of our supporters. He called them garbage. No way. No way.
The publicity stunt came after a video of President Biden went viral on social media, which apparently showed him referring to Donald Trump supporters as garbage. President Biden says he meant to take a swipe at comedian Tony Hinchcliffe, who called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage at Donald Trump's New York rally on Sunday.
So just to clarify, he was not calling Trump supporters garbage, which is why he this is why he wanted to make sure that we put out a statement that clarified what he meant and what he was trying to say. And so just want to make that very clear for folks who are watching. And I just want to read that out to folks. So he was regarding to the comedian, and I quote, "I referred to the hateful rhetoric about Puerto Rico spewed by Trump's supporter at his Madison Square Garden rally as garbage, which is the only word I can think of to describe it."
But while the commander-in-chief and the White House have already clarified comments that his remarks was misinterpreted, Republicans are desperately trying to use them to pivot away from the racist and demeaning language that underscored the Trump rally at Madison Square Garden this past Sunday. On Wednesday, Donald Trump linked President Biden's garbage comment to sanitation workers, saying they don't get the respect and credit they deserve.
And by the way, I want to thank all of our incredible sanitation workers all across America. Because they work hard, they really do work hard. And they do an incredible job, and they don't get the credit they deserve, like our police, like our firefighters, like so many others. They don't get the credit, but everybody knows we love them, and everybody knows they deserve the credit, and they will get the credit.
Former presidential candidate and Trump supporter Vivek Ramaswamy, too, boarded a garbage truck and called President Biden's comments ugly and divisive. Meanwhile, Vice President Kamala Harris has distanced herself from the president's remarks. When asked about Biden's gaffe, Kamala Harris tried to contain the fallout and said she would serve all Americans if elected as president.
I strongly disagree with any criticism of people based on who they vote for. You heard my speech last night and continuously throughout my career. I believe that the work that I do is about representing all the people, whether they support me or not. And as President of the United States, I will be a president for all Americans, whether you vote for me or not.
During a Harris rally in Las Vegas, actor and singer Jennifer Lopez, who is of Puerto Rican descent, also pushed back at comedian Hinchcliffe's racist remarks.
You can't even spell American without Rican. This is our country too, and we must exercise our right to vote on November 5th.
Election day is just around the corner, and as early returns continue to favor Democrats, Republicans are hoping to turn the garbage controversy to their benefit. And the 2024 presidential race is promising to be a nail-biter. With 19 electoral votes, Pennsylvania holds the most electoral college votes among all swing states. However, Georgia and North Carolina could potentially act as the deciders in this year's high-stakes contest. Republicans have seen consecutive victories in North Carolina, which hasn't gone blue since former President Barack Obama won it back in 2008. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden flipped Georgia in 2020 as the Democrats registered its first win in the Peach State in nearly 3 decades. Which way will the two states swing this time? Here's our report, which takes a deep dive into these crucial swing states.
The 2024 presidential race is shaping up to be one of the closest in recent history, with no clear leader between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump in critical battleground states. Each candidate has a razor-thin edge in different areas, making this contest a true toss-up. In Georgia, Donald Trump holds a narrow lead of 48% to 47%, according to a recent CNN poll. Meanwhile, Harris is up by just 1 point in North Carolina at 48% to Trump's 47%. Both states fall within the margin of error, indicating the race could tip in either direction. This close race extends across other key states. In Pennsylvania, the two candidates are virtually tied at 48%. And Michigan leans slightly toward Trump with 47% and Harris at 45%. Wisconsin is also on the fence, with Trump having a slight advantage, 50% to Harris's 49%. Each state tells its own story. In Georgia and North Carolina, Harris has strong support from black voters and those in urban areas, while Trump leads among white voters without college degrees. Suburban voters are nearly evenly split in Georgia, but lean toward Harris in North Carolina.
The things she's saying and the things she want to do, I don't even see a choice. I don't see another choice. She put it out there. I mean, the other night when she was on the lips out in D.C., she put it out there. And I just, I think black men gonna vote for her.
I do not want you guys to have to put on a uniform, not because you're patriotic and volunteer, but because your country forces you to, because Kamala Harris has blundered us into another significant conflict. But the opportunity to stop that and to take the country in a new direction is this election. And we need to pursue a foreign policy that makes it less likely. And that's what's going to change when Donald Trump is president.
A large share of likely voters in Georgia and North Carolina have already cast ballots. Voters in both states give Donald Trump the advantage over Harris on trust to handle immigration, foreign policy, and the economy. And they give Harris the lead on trust to handle reproductive rights, with voters in both states closely split on which candidate they trust more to protect democracy. After supporting Barack Obama in 2008, North Carolina has voted for the Republican in the past 3 presidential elections. And in Georgia, President Joe Biden made history by defeating Donald Trump with a margin of less than 1 percentage point and becoming the first Democrat to win the state since Bill Clinton's victory in 1992. So as of now, Trump has about 51% to 49%. Aggregate support across the 7 battlegrounds, according to the latest polling averages. The remaining undecided voters are few and could really shift the outcome. With both sides locked in a nearly even race, this election is going to go down to the wire, with each swing state earning the title of being a battleground.
And finally, as Americans prepare to vote, betting markets are skyrocketing to record-breaking highs. Platforms that once capped bets at a few $100 now host wagers worth millions of dollars. Critics say these wagers could undermine democracy, while advocates insist they provide real insights into the mood of the nation. Will election betting reveal a deeper pulse on the race, or is it all just a risky gamble? Our final report goes inside the betting markets for a look at how the candidates stack up.
With just 3 days to go before Americans choose their next president, an unexpected arena is exploding with energy: election betting markets. Once a quiet corner of politics, these betting platforms have burst into the spotlight, pulling in hundreds of millions of dollars and drawing attention from both the media and campaign circles. And as of now, most of these betting odds are swinging in favor of Republican candidate Donald Trump.
The good thing about it is people now see the contrast from when Trump was in office and now with Biden and Kamala been in office. It's a night and day difference. So common sense would tell everyone we've got to get what works back in office, and that was Trump.
It all started when a court ruling in September opened the doors for American platforms like Kalshi to host election betting legally. This move unleashed a tidal wave of wagers, with Kalshi alone drawing over $100 million in bets. Other big names like Robinhood quickly followed, joining established global sites. And now, for the first time, Americans can bet legally on election outcomes, creating a frenzy of predictions across the country.
I think she stands for democracy and having another election after this one. I think she's, I very much supported Mr. Biden, but I think she's given a real charge to the campaign, and I've been following her online and giving money for congressional support for her and for Biden for over 2 years now.
But while election betting might sound thrilling, it has stirred up controversy. Critics worry that turning elections into high-stakes wagers could taint the democratic process. The Commodity Futures Trading Commission is even working on a rule to ban political betting altogether, warning that this could jeopardize the country's political integrity. Some, however, see it differently. Kalshi CEO, for example, argues that election betting is simply another way to gauge public sentiment. However, questions about manipulation hang over the industry. Large bets on platforms like Polymarket have sometimes inflated certain odds, and researchers have flagged suspicious trading, making it hard to tell what's real and what's manufactured. Historically, betting markets have a mixed track record. In 2016, most predicted Trump's loss. In 2022, they anticipated stronger Republican wins than materialized. But some platforms, like the Iowa electronic markets, have often been on target, sometimes even outpacing national polls. Their accuracy has turned election betting into a new kind of scoreboard in US politics. Yet there's still a battle over whether election betting should even be allowed. As election day approaches, millions of dollars continue to pour into these markets. For some, it's a pulse on the future. For others, it's a gamble on democracy itself. And the big question remains: will these bets prove just predictions, or will they end up influencing the final count?
That does it for us today. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
Kamala, you're fired.
I say, bring it on.
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill. We know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering.